Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us for our City Spotlight on Tupelo. Now, as you can see, I'm in the gift shop of the Elvis Presley birthplace. Now, if you tell someone that you live here or that you're from Tupelo, more often than not, you're probably going to get someone who says, hey, isn't that where Elvis Presley was born? It's great to admit that you're from here. Well, to understand his childhood, I spoke with a very close friend of his.
I cheers our childhood.
Sam Bell was born in Tupelo and has lived here ever since. Raised by his grandparents, Bell and his family lived on Green Street, and it was there that he would meet a best friend.
They moved in right next to us. Their backyard led right into our properties.
Out of the homes Elvis and his family lived in Tupelo, his birthplace stands tall and is visited by people from around the country.
He wanted the city to have this place.
So after one of his concerts in the fairgrounds, he donated all of the proceeds to the city,
So that they could buy this 15 acres and develop a park for the kids on this part of town, because when he lived out here, they didn't have a park.
But according to Bell, that didn't stop them from having summertime adventures.
During the day, we start our little routine. We come down Green Street. We go down to the Lyric Theater. What happened, it was segregated, you know. So one side, he'd go in the white side, he'd buy some popcorn, and I'd go in the black side. But when we got upstairs, they had a little banner there and just separated the races, and you just cross over there. So we sit in the aisle instead of using the seat. We sit in the aisle and we watch all the westerns and all that.
Bell said he and his buddy Elvis thought they were slick. Turns out, not so much.
The owner there, Mr. Crowder, he knew what we were doing all along. We really thought we were getting away with it. He just called us up and he told us what we had been doing. And he said it was okay as long as y'all didn't occupy a seat. So he let us stay and watch the TV.
From there, the boys would go down to the fairgrounds and play ball. Then head to the Cockrell Banana Company and buy a banana or two.
That's when we come back up through Shake Rag on our way back home. And that's when the guys be playing the music in the barber shop. We sit on the porch out there and watch him. And he got really involved in that.
Did he always have his love of music since you knew him?
Yeah.
On Sundays, Bell said he and Elvis would go to the Sanctified Church and listen to their music.
Sometimes we look around, he'd be in the inside, up on the stage up there, and he'd just be jumping and jumping. They just loved him. They made no, it wasn't no black and white. He was one of the boys.
One of the boys. Bell said people would light up when they saw him, Elvis, and their friends heading down the road.
He wasn't no, here come a bunch of black guys and a white guy coming up. Here come the boys. Yeah.
Sit down with Bell and you'll be captivated by his stories of his childhood with Elvis.
I think it's a very unique childhood, but he had a desire, he had some talent, and he had a dream, and all those things came true, and he became the greatest entertainer of all time.
It was so interesting getting to know Mr. Sam Bell. He has such great stories. Now, I am joined with Miss Connie Tullis, who works at the Tupelo hardware store, and I think it's very interesting that your job is solely on the tourism there, that just this hardware store needs that. But it is such a historic place. Can you give us a brief story about what happened at the hardware store and why it's so significant?
I certainly can. And people ask me, do you get tired of telling that story? I never get tired of telling this story. This happened on Elvis's birthday in 1946. And he came in the store with his mother to get a birthday gift. And he did not want a guitar, but he wanted a .22 rifle or a bicycle. But I called Gladys, the first helicopter mom. She wouldn't let him have those things. And a longtime employee, Mr. Forrest Bobo, reached into the music counter and took out that guitar. And as they say, the rest is history.
Right. And so what does it mean to you to work in such a historic place?
Well, I tell fans and people every day that I've got the best job in the world. I get to talk about Elvis every day. So that means a lot to me, being the Elvis fan that I am.
And what kind of people do you meet on a day-to-day basis?
Well, you never really know. Sometimes these, tour groups will call and say, we'll be coming in. I've got 40 people. I've got 120 people. But really, on a day-to-day basis, I never really know how many. Sometimes there's quite a few. But it's a fun job.
And I find it interesting that Elvis only lived here 13 years, and we really cherish that here in Tupelo. Why do you think we cherish his childhood so much?
Well, you know, to me, that's the formative years. We had Elvis during those formative years. And at that time, not so much the entertainer or the talent that he became, but what a kind person he was, what a respectful person that he was. And I mean, that just means, I think that means a lot to everybody.
It certainly does. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Daniella. I appreciate it.
Well, we're having great weather outside right now. When we come back, Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon will have a complete look at your WTVA Severe Weather Authority forecast. Don't go away.